number 1 Board of Education to order. And go ahead and please.
Jason. I'm present. Mr. Hill. Here. Sam.
Here.
Tony. Here. David. David. Nelson. Here.
Okay, we have a quorum and we can proceed. I'd just like to welcome everyone here tonight. As advertised, this is a part of the planning for Shiloh CUSD number 1. The topic tonight will be the Newman Building and what the future of the Newman Building is. We're asking to hear from the public. Part of this meeting, we send a letter out to the mayors of each of the towns in our school district and ask them to come and speak directly to this topic, to give us information and opinions from their towns, what's happened in their towns with existing school buildings, and give us some feedback on that issue. If we ask the mayor or the representative to come, so if you are either the mayor of the town or the representative, will you please stand because I'm going to have you guys go first. Okay. Go ahead. Oh, I said, Dr. Wheaton reminds me, I'm so sorry, I had it on my list. We have the regional superintendent of the ROE number 11, Bobby Mattingly, here with us tonight. Dr. Wheaton asked her to come, and she graciously accepted to come and listen, and we're concerned about what the community has to say. So thank you for coming, Bobby. We appreciate it. And we are being videotaped tonight, so as you come up to the mic to speak, you will have to get pretty close to it to be able to be heard, okay? Thank you.
I'm Edgar, here from you guys some input on what we feel that have dealt with in the past from elementary school.
We cannot hear. We can't hear. Can we turn that? I hate to ask, but can we turn the fan down or something? We can't hear nothing. Unfortunately. Can we kick open the doors instead?
Thank you. Mayor Brockton, most people know me here. It's my understanding I was invited here to give some input on what happens to maintenance schools after they've been shut down. Brockton, in my opinion, has one of the worst looking schools right now that was left by the school board. I understand that it was closed when the Shiloh was over. We have an eyesore now that it's just going to be a costly venture to the village. I don't know what options there are out there for people to do things. I know Redmond got their school divided into apartment buildings. I think there's a whole lot of investors out there who want to do that kind of stuff to the economy the way it is. I understand that economic times are the way they are. Leaving these schools empty, these buildings empty, is not, in my opinion, a good thing for the community. It may be a good thing for the school. I honestly don't know what your options are. I haven't looked at your finances or anything like that. But if you want my opinion, is to abandon the school, it's very, very simple. I do think that kids' education on cemetery is very important. We have to put all of our stock into these kids' future. And if that's what it takes, is to close the school down, consolidate it, to save money, to get more school functions, more programs, classes, whatever, then that's what we got to do. But I don't really know what you guys want out of it. I'm just giving you my opinion. That's all it is.
Hey, is there any way just to turn the mic up here? I don't know if it's where it was loud ago. All right. You got to run up the mic.
I'm Cheryl Gill, Mayor of Metcalf. I was invited here to speak to you. On behalf of NetCat, I'd let you know what it's like to have an abandoned school in the village. If you have a plan in effect to do something with the building that could be prosperous, such as an early childhood, I would agree with you guys might consider that. But once your building's down and there's nothing in it, it's a domino effect. It starts out with nobody taking care of it. It's an eyesore. People who want you to abandon it, or people who then are complaining because it's abandoned later. It's just a huge domino effect. If you can find some other way to use it for resources, would be your best plan, rather than leaving it vacant.
Thank you very much.
Actually, listen to that. It should work as long as run on top of us. You got to run on top of the record. We can try it. No matter what you do, you're going to be right on top of the thing.
Oh, that's nice.
Okay, that's all.
If I'm here, you're not going to hear it. You got to be right on top of it. You got to just listen.
Come on, Judy.
I'm Judy Pollack, Mayor of Newman, and I don't think it's any secret to most people here. Newman has been left with a building from consolidation, and it was a disastrous mess. We looked at it for a long time. We got lucky, and we got involved in a cleanup program with the EPA. Our building is down. The city had to buy that before we could have it cleaned up. It is down, and we've gotten fortunate. We've just recently sold that lot off. The rumor mill, and I know it's a rumor mill, has it that this board, there's people on this board that thinks the city is going to take this building. I can tell you, as long as I am in this position, that is not going to happen. We are not cleaning up another mess from the school, from possibly the lack of a plan. Have a plan in place before you make a move. It's just not going to happen. And I'm all about, if we need to do something, that's fine. But is this an agenda that maybe some of the people on this board promise their constituents that in their tenure we get that Newman building closed? If that's if that's what it is, then stand up and say that's what it is. But if it's for the good of our kids and the good of our school, then I can back that if there's a plan. But I don't think there's a plan. I don't think you have a clue what you're going to do with our kids. You don't have a clue what you're going to do with this building. And, you need to be reasonable about it. I mean, it is about the kids. It's not about what all the adults want. It's about the kids and the education. But, I've heard this rumor going around, we're going to close the building, we're not going to close the building. But where is that plan? How come we can't see that plan? Obviously, we're here because something's going on somewhere. Is it behind a closed door? If you're sitting on this board and you promise people you can get rid of that Newman building, then you might want to think about what you're doing. And again, from the city standpoint, we're not taking your building. This building belongs to the school district. You clean it up. You figure out what you're going to do with it. It will not be Newman's problem. So you really might want to think long and hard about what you're doing here.
Are there any other mayors or their representatives here to speak? Come on over.
I'm Jim Cooper, Mayor of Redmond, and I'm pretty much what everybody else has said. The school board can't decide what they want to do with this school. I mean, years ago when Redmond and Medcliff and Hume and everybody all consolidated, the schools were all set in. Redmond is very fortunate. It was a shelter care, Carter Shelter Care, and now it's an apartment house. It's brought revenue into our town. If this building's in such bad shape that the Shiloh School Board don't need it, then maybe it needs to be tore down. If it's not in that bad a shape, look for revenue like Redmond did and turn it into something. I mean, it's a shame to let any building go to waste, especially if you spent good money on keeping it up. But if it's going to cost the school board more money to keep it up than what you're getting use out of it, then it's only good common sense to do away with it and think of the kids in the school district rather than just what one building is going to do.
Any other mayors? Representatives?
Okay, what we're going to do at this point is open it up for anyone sitting here tonight to give their comment to the school board. Comments, questions, it's being taped by the school. We will have this recorded to be able to use for future use, to look back and make sure we are getting the public's questions answered. So tonight is your night to speak. If you filled out a form and haven't given it to me, feel free to walk up here to Mrs. Harbaugh and I'll hand it down the line to me. As you listen to people, if you still feel the need to speak, please go fill the form out and send it this way so that I know you do intend to address the board. Okay? We would like everybody to be to the point. I want you to have the opportunity to speak. We would like you to try and hold it to 3 minutes. I have quite a little staff here. If you can keep your comments concise and to the point, it would be very helpful, especially when we have to go back and look at those and decipher what we're trying to answer for our public. So with that, I'm going to start down the list I have here.
Sam,
Yes.
do we need just a public concern to let them know who else is recording?
That might be a good idea. The Edgar County Watchdog Group is also recording here. I'm not familiar with their blog, but you do run a blog, and is there anything else you guys would like to tell the public about this recording? Thanks, Tom. Okay, with that, the first person I have here is Patsy Barnett.
I would like to know how you're going to find a place for all of the things that happen in this gym, because I know that you do not have space over in the Shiloh building for children on rainy days when they get through with lunch. We had to take them in, when I worked for the school, we had to take them in, set them on the sideline while there was a PE class in the gym after they had lunch. What are you going to do?
And this portion of the meeting is for you to ask your questions, and like I said, they will be recorded. We will not be trying to answer individual questions at this time. Patty Reed.
Yes.
Can you hear me? No. First, I would like to thank the board for holding this meeting and allowing the public's concerns to be heard. I have a few questions and concerns regarding the closing of the Newman building. First, I as a parent, as well as a taxpayer, have never been shown in black and white the actual savings to close the Newman building. I have heard several speculations, but I was not aware that a study had ever been done and an exact dollar amount been pinpointed. If a cost-saving study has been done, my question is, why has it never been made public? Second, I have lived in both Newman and Brockton, and I know that the assessed values of property in Newman are higher than that of Brockton. And if the building closes, I feel that the property values of Newman would go down, and wouldn't that have a negative effect on the school district? Third, if we close the building, what will become of it? And has anyone researched what the cost would be to demolish the building? If not demolished, wouldn't you still have to pay to maintain a vacant building? Fourth, as a parent, I'm concerned about the cafeteria and the number of kids that will be going through. Can the Shiloh cafeteria accommodate that many kids? And if so, how early will the pre-K go to lunch? Also, the gym at the Newman building seems to be quite beneficial for extra practices, games, and etc. What will happen if it's not available? If the building closes in a couple of years, it's determined that the Shiloh building cannot accommodate both the cafeteria and the gym. Are we going to be asked at that time to raise our taxes to expand the Shiloh building? Another thing that concerns me is the library. Are the smaller children going to have access to a library? And if they are, will they be sharing the space with a high school senior? I have a daughter that is 4, and I'm not sure it is in her best interest to be interacting with older students, especially high school students. I'm not sure how you could keep that from happening if all the students are in one building. I know that times are difficult, and that calls for difficult decisions, and I commend you for being on the board and taking that responsibility. But with that responsibility comes accountability, and I think it would be a huge injustice to both the public and especially our children to hastily close this building without a thorough study. Thank you.
Wade Hales.
Again, I'd like to thank you guys for inviting us all here for the Special Strategic Planning Committee. I did have a couple of questions. Like many of the others, I was sitting on that city council when we had to find money to get that building down. That was a mess. Private sale to a private owner, dumb. A person, you know, if we have a hard time paying for a school facility, I don't know what your monthly costs are, but to say that a private individual that's not going to use it as a business, that decides to use it as a home, is going to be able to maintain this. That's exactly what happened up there. At the point where those people decided to abandon the building was in such disrepair that there was no possible way to fix it. And at that point, we had asbestos issues. Come up with a plan. Lovington has one. They're a proud people, and they're not happy about closing their school. But at least they have the funds and the resources that they've located that they're going to tear it down. Don't leave it as a problem for the citizens of this community. I already had to be on the board once to clean up your mess. I'm not going to do it again. 2, what is the total dollar saved? Patty asked, she asked it perfectly. We've never seen it. Are you going to be relieving people of jobs? You've got a custodian over here. Are you going to pick them back up over there at that other school? You got a secretary. They're going to lose their job. How many more jobs do we have to cut this year? 3rd, at the next meeting, if we're having a strategic planning committee, we've already discussed that we're losing teachers' jobs. We're consolidating elementary classrooms. I want to see the classroom that's holding 37. I'd like to have it. I'd like to see it. I'd like to be able to bring a tape measure so I can figure out how much space my child is going to have to move in that room. With a teacher, with books, and everything else that goes in those classrooms. There's at least 3 or 4 classes that have 25 or plus students. I talked to a person from Royal Forsyth. They don't have any class over 20 students. Average classroom size is 20. So, we've got good facilities now where we can house all the students. I'd like to know where the pre-K will be going, or is that just, we don't worry about our early childhood anymore? Do we just go ahead and disregard them? Because we've got room for the students that are supposed to be here, K through 12, but we don't have the accommodations now for pre-K. I guess they could always square up some room in the bus stop. Just let me know where all those classes are supposed to be. Thank you.
Renee Henry.
Hello, I'm here as a taxpayer, not as the librarian. I have several things that I'd like to say. First of all is that I'd like this to be part of a true strategic planning process, not just are we going to close the building or not. Because it's a bigger picture.
we have a whole district that we have to live with or not live with over the many, many years to come. And unless we have some idea of where we're headed over the next 5 years, closing this building is done with blinders on. It won't be a whole picture. And so I would encourage you to use a holistic viewpoint when you are thinking about this decision. And I would encourage this to be a true strategic planning process and not just a question of whether we close the school or not. So in that light, I hope that this is your first meeting to gather input from the community. That you will take this and some hard census data, research data from school report cards, from other schools around the state that are about the same size with the same district, that you will take information that you can gather from our own school report card over many years, because what we all know is difficult in a small school is that every class is so unique that test scores and AYP shifts greatly depending on the skills of one child or two children in any given class. So we need to take a big, broad look at many years and how Shiloh has performed and whether we are meeting the educational needs of our children. And I say that because I think that we need to decide whether or not closing this building solves our financial problems, or whether there are other issues that are still going to be there that will be financial stress, and that closing this building really doesn't make much difference. You know, your operational fund is really pretty sound, and you don't have to worry about it being very tight. What's tight is your education fund. And that makes it much more difficult to cut. It's a very difficult place for you all to be. Once you have done that research and you start and gather that data, I hope that you will then need to plan, to present and create a plan for the community and the district for the next 5 years. Where are we headed? Do we need to close the whole district? Do we need to merge? Do we need to dissolve and send our students into different school districts? Do we need to do that at all grade levels? Do we need to do that just at the high school? Can we afford to stay as a district over the next 5 years, 10 years? And then I hope you'll come back to us with your plan and get some more feedback and input on the plan so that you can then revise it. Obviously, all this takes time. So closing a building between now and August, I don't think is in the wisest interest of the school district, because you need the time to think about it and analyze everything that's going into it. Look at this holistically. What does the district need to do for education, for facilities, for financial wherewithal? This isn't something that you want to take and look at through a narrow pinhole. Also, in relation to closing this building, remember that how the community goes is how the district goes. Your money is based on our EAV. And if our EAV goes down, your money goes down. And we don't have as much money to do what we need to do for our children. So it is in your vested interest to make sure that your community stays strong. You don't want to weaken them and to diminish them, or else the district and our children will all lose. How goes the community is how goes the district. So with those things in mind, that's what I would like to ask you, is to make this not an isolated decision, but a holistic plan. Thank you.
Jerry Luke.
I have a daughter who is entering high school, as well as I'm a taxpayer. I didn't grow up in this district, so my thoughts are based purely on what I think is best for my child and other students in this district. My daughter's very bright pre-K teacher once told me that I was the biggest advocate for my child, so I would like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to speak my opinions. I am not against or for keeping this Newman building open. I am for what's best for our students and not a short-term fix but a long-term solution. I would like us to retain our administration for more than 3 years. The turnover in administration does not help build a strong future for our district. How can we move forward if we are always in a period of transition? We have teachers that have been here a long time, so why can't we expect that from our administration? At the April board meeting, you voted to make $400,000 in cuts, or approximately that amount, in the elementary budget, and stated that the coming year that you would look to do that in the high school budget. My daughter is involved in music, athletics, several clubs, and has maintained straight A's throughout her years at Shiloh. She is at the point where she is thinking about her future. If you have to start cutting programs, college prep classes, and extracurricular activities, then our students will be at a disadvantage to getting accepted into the colleges of their choice, receiving scholarships, and my biggest fear, not prepared for college at all. So I ask that the board, if you start cutting the high school budget to the bare bones and only offer the classes to meet the graduation requirements, that you seriously consider becoming a pre-K through 8 school and tuitioning the high school students to other districts. My fear is that Shiloh will run out of money and the state will come in and ship our kids off to who knows where. I would at least like to have a say where my daughter goes to school. So I would like to know how much it costs per student per year to educate, how much it costs to send our students to other districts. I would also like to talk about the quality of education and to find out what your plans are for the fact that we are not meeting AYP, how many years we have not met AYP, and if we are a school of choice or when we will become a school of choice, and what our options are when that happens.
Everybody else has pretty well covered everything, but the thing that I understand among all of this is I haven't heard a plan from the board. Most of what I'm hearing is from one person, and I'm not hearing it as a whole from any of the board. So if this is just one person with an agenda, it's not the right move to do.
April Morris. Hello, I'm April Morris. I'm a taxpayer and a mother of 3 children, one entering 8th grade, one entering 5th grade, and one entering 2nd grade. And please pray for those I can really class. But that's just a slide. What I'm here to say is that something a little different. I talked to a lot of people. I live in Metcalf. I talked to a lot of people in Metcalf, Hume, Brockton. To be honest, most of them are on the side of the line. Whatever. Anyway, but they don't have a lot of faith in the board. And the reason why they don't have a lot of faith in the board to make this decision or future decisions for our school and the money coming in is because they don't feel like the board's given us black and white. I think somebody mentioned that. Numbers on what it costs to keep this open, what it would save us, not to bust kids, what it would not save us. I mean, just give us some figures if you could. That would be really helpful. And if you could get them out to the public, I think people would have to trust reinstated in this board that what you guys are coming forward with is something that's viable because here's something that we can use to prove it. And that's what I'm hearing from especially from the older folks that don't have children in the school, but they pay taxes. And the other thing I want to mention is, has anybody thought about talking to, I know Kansas does this, I'm not familiar with a lot of other schools, they actually use some of their facility to have a special program, and other school districts have to send kids to it, or if they choose to send kids to it. Anyway, it's a money maker for the school district. Now, I'm not here as a authority on how that all works, how you can use that money, but the bottom line being money, that's what we've heard for months now. We've got to make cuts because it's money, it's money's money. Maybe we can use this facility if we can't use it ourselves because it's not really financially responsible. Maybe we can turn it into an opportunity to make money for the district, and then that way, you know, our children might be able to have more in the future. And so that's just what I'd like to think about tonight. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Elliott from Metcalf. I'm a grandparent. I have 4 granddaughters that will be attending this school or whatever school. I'll probably get booed out of here, but that's fine. I don't believe that this board was responsible for the closing of Newman High School. If I'm wrong, you can explain to me that Newman High School got forced into consolidation. I would also like to know how many students are in the district, how many students will Shiloh hold. That's it. I'm all open to suggestions from you guys on what we can do with our kids. We drive from Metcalf to Newman every day for the kids. And that's not a problem. I don't have a problem with driving. We don't have a problem with if you have to cut buses. But I do have a problem with keeping a school open. And I know that this community thinks that because this school is going to close, we had the same thing happen in Metcalf. We lost our school, it was falling apart. This one isn't, but that Newman High School was. It looks bad for the town, but we have to go further than that and be adults and think about our children, other than just what our property values are going to be, how much is it going to cost me to drive my kid to school, because I do it, I know how much it costs. So, just tell me how big kids are. So, and justify keeping this building open if there's less than 700.
Do I have anyone else who would like to address the board? You did not fill out a form for me, I will just still take it. Yes.
For those of you that don't know, I'm Dana Trimble. I'm too old to have kids in school anymore. But I was on the Newman board when we consolidated with Shiloh, and both those boards made a conscientious decision not to cut programs in order to maintain schools. They felt it was more important for the education of children that we maintain all the programs, because it's the education of the children that is most beneficial to the taxpayers of any of these districts. And I just want to encourage you to do what some of these other folks have done, have said, and it is to plan. A true strategic plan has to look beyond the building, has to look beyond what anybody's motivations are. It has to look for the good of the children and the good of the district. So, if in the end, and I understand we're about the same numbers now of students in the school where we were in each of the districts at the time of the last consolidation, if a district cannot support that number of students, it's time to do something else. And that has to be part of your strategic plan. That's something you have to look at. You can't just look at one building at a time or one transportation issue at a time. You need to look at the whole thing.
Anyone else who would like to address the board?
Okay, we thank you all.
I just don't know where the money comes from for the account of the education fund. And then, is there any way for us to increase the deposits of the fund? Because I know that's like $500, but I don't know where the money comes from.
Anyone else like to address the board this evening? Okay, then we're going to move on with our agenda. Under discussion and announcements on this agenda, we do have strategic planning. I'm going to hand the mic over to our superintendent, Dr. John Wheatley, and let him start this discussion.
I don't think the mic's working.
Well, okay, let's do this.
My name is Dr. John Wheatley. I have to say to you that I've been given a task to fix things. I am going to fix things, as you would say, but I do have a few comments about this evening. One, I'm so very, very proud of each and every one of you, because I know behind what you're saying, there's probably a lot more extreme emotional feelings behind what you're doing and saying. Many of you out there I know personally, and we have had discussions before. We will continue to have discussions. Can you imagine what it would be like to be a board member, 2012, sitting in Newman, to talk about this? I can assure you that this is a very, very good board. I can assure you that every question that you have asked has an answer. I can assure you that it did not go unheard. I can also say I have gotten to know the board as though we were an intimate family. They do have constituents in their communities that express their views. Because it's a Newman site building, it brings extreme interest to us. If we had an answer, we would have acted upon it. I can tell you that. If we wanted a direction, we received it this evening, and we hope next Thursday we will continue to receive a direction. The bottom line is to get it right. The bottom line is to educate not only this community, but all the communities that are interested in our school system. I can say this board looks at the Newman building as an asset. This is not a school that they are trying to push under the bus or throw it under the bus. This is an asset to this community. It's an asset to this board. The board realizes that. The board has also understood there are other issues that are at play here. Many of those issues deal with what comes out of Springfield. I've always been a proponent. Out of Springfield, I am not Mr. Madigan. I wish I knew what he was thinking. I can say this, if you're not south of I-80, and many of my life was north of I-80, and I can say for a fact that there's a lot of truth to the division of the haves and the have-nots. The sad part is, in communities that are our size, there's a great deal of spirituality, cleanliness, pureness, camaraderie, old feuds, and this evening is really a great discussion brought by you as helping us in our endeavor to get it right. I do not intend to make a recommendation. I want to hear what two town meetings have to say. I can assure you, many of the questions you've already posed is already in a strategic plan, ready to display and to show. We are tweaking the information that we have. This is not a board that does not recognize everything you said. I've always believed that there's going to be one system in Illinois if the governor and the state has its way. Please keep in mind, if you are a school who has money, and if you are a school that's turning academics into excellence, and you're a high academic achieving system, I think those are the systems that will reap the harvest. We are not an island to ourselves here, meaning that the state of Illinois has mismanaged, and I'm not blaming those people at Springfield, but for some reason, they're talking about cutting pensions. Incoming teachers are going to support the pensions of the outgoing teachers. It's been going on for 30 years. This district, and I do not fault any former superintendents or leadership here. I do not fault any prior boards that are here. I can tell you for a fact that this district has been deficit spending for at least 10 years and probably more. You know, when the checkbook runs empty, and it's no fault of the board sometimes, the state budget system, the state budget system has failed in giving this school, but all schools in Illinois, monies that were due them. You as taxpayers pay them. They're supposed to return those taxes. They fail to pay bills that they're mandated to pay. Now, having said that, could I get shot politically? Well, if I do, it's only telling the truth. But I'm not laying blame. I'm saying that you are in a global economic recession, downturn, depression, and that Great Depression of the 20s and the 30s was an American U.S. depression. You're in a global depression. This community is like no other community because we're all facing the same dilemma, especially when it's coming to your children. And even if you don't have children in this community, I strongly suggest that those stakeholders also are going through the same hurt. The country is facing some tough times. 20 years from now, we'll find out how bad they are, but today, we are doing our best to keep hope alive. I do not think this board is going to make an irrational decision. I do not believe in my heart that I would make a recommendation without having all types of information at my disposal. What I don't have is what you have, and I say this thankfully. I don't have what you know. I have had 12 nights meetings with this board. We meet once a month. This board is kind enough to its community and communities to allow us to go to you. So out of 13 meetings to date, this is a very productive meeting. I definitely thank each and every one of you. Some of you could be watching the ball game now. But this is to me like the presidential election. This is the two best people we got in this country that are going to be elected in November. I have to tell you, I'm not excited about the presidential election. I have to tell you, what choice do you choose? And I have to tell you that even the Democrats and the Republicans can't get it together. That's a sad state, but it's a national dilemma. So we sit here this evening, we're talking about this particular building, and believe me, and I say this sincerely, this board has lost more sleep than you can imagine contemplating the right call. They will get it right. I do know that they believe that our vision and mission is very important to us. I do believe that they are holding true to the vision and mission. They also know and anticipated many of the things that you had said this evening, and we relish those comments. My concern is, I always had an idea of how the board thinks, but I can assure you, I never knew how my communities think, and that's why I'm saying this again. I'm so pleased that you are here. You are the people that help guide this board. You are the people who will allow me to also make a decision. I represent you as well. We are all in this together. And I can say that I'm very proud to be the superintendent in a difficult time, because I'm not afraid to make a decision in a difficult time. What I'm afraid of is not making a decision, and then we find out later we should have made a decision. So therefore, I would say to you, as I would say to any community member, you are a valuable person to me. I represent you as well as I represent the board, but I will fix the problem. Believe me. I want to thank you, but I would also like to thank Bobby in the front row. She has been a wonderful source of information to the school system. Bobby has been behind this community. I have known her for a little over a year, and I'll tell you what, I've worked in many regional offices of education, and they don't get any better or harder working than she. And I have to say publicly, how'd you like to work a half a year without a paycheck and not knowing if you're going to have that office open or closed? That's just a political statement of truth. So if you think it's tough for the board, this board doesn't make a whole lot of money. This board sweats your school colors. There is a lot of pride and a lot of feelings shared amongst us, but what we did was we took the show on the road. And I want to thank you for that opportunity.
At this time, since it is an open discussion for the board, I want to give anyone on the board a chance to comment any way they choose with the public. Troy?
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. Obviously, you care. We can see that. I think like Dr. Weekley said, there's been some misunderstandings. I don't know if misunderstanding, but there's tough decisions that's got to be made. Many of you that don't know, I went to school at Shiloh until I was in 4th grade, came over here in my 5th grade, went through the halls of this building, went to the high school up there, went back to Shiloh my junior year, graduated from Shiloh. Year after I graduated was the first year they consolidated. I kind of wish I would have done it when I was in, because I had friends in both places. I went to the service, I came back, I never forget the night my mom drove me up Broadway about a year after the consolidation, maybe the first year. And the football field was overgrown, the grass was this tall, and I had no idea what was going on with that building up there, and it really ticked me off. I played football in that field 2 years prior to that. Just as I think Kathy stated, I wasn't part of this board during the consolidation. I'm not going to lay any blame, but what happened with that Newman High School is a shame. And like Wade said, you know, the city got stuck putting the bill. They had to buy it, go through the EPA, get the grants, tear it down. It was an eyesore for a long time. The communities of Redmond, Brockton, Hume, they've all been through it. Each one's done something different with their school building, but I think it shows the character of each little town, what they do with that building when it's done. Redmond said they became prosperous. You know, that's good for them. Hume, I'm not for sure how they got that building torn down. The tractor place is still up there, and it was bad for a while, but it's cleaned up now. It's looking all right. Somebody's using it for storage. Which goes to tell you that a building will stand for many years. It's not the intent of this board to walk out of here and make a decision next week, next month, to close this building. That is not the intent of this board. There's a strategic planning process that happens. I don't know how many people in this crowd has ever seen a written document of a strategic plan for this school board, in the last 5-10 years. Something posted on the internet, public knowledge. What direction are we going? What happens is if you don't have a plan like that, you have this happen, and people come in and want to
know what's going on. Everybody gets up in a roar. We're going to shut the school down. Community's going to crap. As a board member on this sitting board, and I told Samantha this, and I told other people, it'll be a cold day in hell before this building looks like that one up there. We turn it over to this community and make you, or just desert it. I don't think it was very responsible as a board, whether whoever was on it, whether Shiloh board, Newman board, the consolidated board, to leave that school like that. I don't believe it's very responsible to sell it for $6,000 or whatever it was. And that's not going to happen with this as long as I'm on this board. This is a community unit school district. This building is an asset. This gym that we're sitting in is only, what, 20, 30 years old, 20 years, 1990? But one of the things that a lot of people don't know probably, that there's a website you can go to called the Illinois State Board of Education website with the report cards and all that. It gives you the financial data, it gives you everything you need to know about this school in the last, and it goes all the way back to 1999. I have decided as a board member to step up and take the lead as part of the strategic plan that the president did assign me to be part of the strategic plan. Because as a taxpayer and a concerned citizen with children in this school district, I want to see a document. I want something that the public can see, and they can see what direction this school is going. But I've also done my research and seen that in the last 4 years, AYP scores, testing scores are going down. Again, there's opinions about scores, but that's the only measurable data that there is. It's what the state uses, it's what we use for strategic planning. And we maintain status quo. Well, if we maintain status quo, one thing's for sure. Samantha asked me, the people need a guarantee that it's going to help the education of the children. There's nobody that can guarantee that. But I can guarantee one thing, I think Dr. Wheatley could too, that if we maintain status quo, it's not going to help the education of the children, because if the numbers are, the proof's in the numbers. We're dwindling with our test score. The spending, I got some information on the spending for the last 4 years in this school district. Roughly taken in as revenue, $18 million, spent $20 million. About $1.85 million more than we've taken in is how much we spent. So we've obviously thrown money at the problem of trying to educate our children, and that's not working. So as a responsible board member on the strategic planning, I've taken this lead to do this. And I know it's not the politically correct thing to do. But we have to control our costs. We have to control our curriculum for our students, too. And we need to provide every opportunity that we can, every program that we can, for our kids to succeed. The strategic planning committee, the board's been talking about many uses, many different ideas have been thrown out there. Samantha brought up the idea. I brought it up 6 months ago, a year ago. We need committee members that are from the community. And I will welcome them to share those ideas, to get that information out to the committee so it doesn't look like we're having meetings behind closed doors, plans being made behind closed doors. But the problem is that there's certain laws, of course, with Open Meeting Act and things like that. When you pass documents back and forth and the board's sitting there discussing them, then they become public information. But if a document's in the works and you have a draft document of a plan and it gets in the hands of the public, and it's wrong, there's some information that could be really sensitive, then you just turn up your district upside down, and there's no reason to cause all that. We needed the factual information from what I take for every person out here today. We need factual information, we need a plan, we need to find out the use of the gym, the cafeteria. There was job losses. No, we want to create jobs. That's what we want to do. We want to create jobs for our community. The school is one of the biggest employers in the community. We want to create those jobs. Some of the cuts that we had to do from the Ed Fund is because in the last 4 years, we spent $900,000 more in the Ed Fund than we've taken in. So we had to cut those jobs out there. That doesn't mean that we can't create jobs that are paid out of other funds to support the education of our children. And we're just kind of turning this whole thing upside down and around. And it is a troubling time right now. There's tough decisions to be made, but this building's not going to be closed. It's an asset. It'll be used. This building will be used for something. Now, the thing of it is if we're challenging the administration, Dr. Wheatley, Ms. Harbaugh, to figure out what that is. Reach out to the state. Work with the Regional Office of Education. If anybody does any research with Illinois school code, they know that any special programs like Kansas has or regional pre-K has to go through the regional office. And the support, you have to have that support from the regional office and the state. But they're not going to give us any of those programs if we stand divided. We must stand united. Which leads me to the point of trying to vision the Shiloh Elementary to be united under one roof. It's easier to administrate. I've got kids in first grade and sixth grade last year. If I had to come see Miss Harbaugh for something for my first grader, I'd come over here, or call or whatever. Maybe Miss Harbaugh was over in Shiloh, because she's split up. I go to Shiloh to see her, maybe she's over here now. It's hard to administrate that. You need to be one team to create everything that we're trying to do with the vision, to put our children's education first. And leave all the personal feelings out of it. But I do have a lot of pride in this school district, in this school in particular, and also the high school up there. But we're not allowed to get to the point that it was in 1995, 96. But this is a time and this is an economy that the people step up to the plate to become business owners, small business. There's all kinds of opportunities out there for the private sector. And we will support any of that as a board. I will support it. I don't know as the school board, but I think we need to support those types of things. And tonight, I think we need to discuss, Samantha, if there's any volunteers out there who'd like to be on the strategic planning committee, we'll figure out a way to do this. But I think we need to have some citizens. And the stakeholders of this particular talk is primarily residents from Newman for the use of this building. So therefore, while we're over here, right now, I would ask to see if there's any people out there that would volunteer to be part of this strategic planning committee. Okay, keep your hands up because I want to talk to you after this, because if we want to continue on with this strategic planning committee, then we're going to have a meeting later so we can sit down and go over the information so it can be put out. Or see me after the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Troy. As board president, I owe you all an apology. Before these talks ever started to happen, there should have been a committee formed. Our policy allows for us to create special committees to study special issues. It has become very clear tonight that this is a special issue. It was clear before this, but I think it's become clear to everyone sitting here tonight this is what would be considered a special issue and under policy deserves special consideration. Therefore, I do believe a committee needs to be formed to answer the questions that are being asked, to give fair consideration. As a board member and as the board president, I can't answer half the questions you asked me tonight without proper research. I can give you what I think the answer is, but that's not going to do anyone any good. And I can tell you what I think we need to do or what I think is best for education, but those are unfounded statements and statements that can't be made without proper research. We do not have a plan to show you, and I apologize for that. I take responsibility for not leading this board in the direction we should have taken long ago. That direction is to involve our community members and to give the answers to you that you deserve. And I'm admitting that tonight. The board and I have had several conversations Monday night. If you have the opportunity to be there, some things were said and things got very interesting, but it's healthy for a board to not always sit and agree. That's why our constituents elect 7 people to do a job. And that job is to try our hardest to get it right. I'm going to work with Dr. Wheatley and Mrs. Harbaugh to create this committee. I'd like to see this committee formed not only of a couple of board members, but also community members. I think we need to involve our staff in this decision. And I think that as this decision starts to go, this special committee needs to look at the committees the board already has formed
like the Strategic Planning Committee, like the Finance Committee, like the Buildings and Grounds Committee, and ask for questions, ask for answers. That's why we use committees. Some of you have witnessed our board meetings. Sometimes they get a little wild and crazy, but if we utilize our committees the right way, I think we can do a lot of good, and I think we can give you the answers. I think that's the least you deserve. So I'm standing here tonight telling you that we're going to research the topic. There's going to be a committee formed, and we are going to move forward. I would like, if you are interested in serving on the committee, let me know afterwards. Send me an email. My email is on the Shiloh website. You can go straight to my email account, and we'll work on getting that committee in order and formed and be able to start researching this special issue.
I'm Dana Hales. I'm the Vice President of the board. I've talked to a few people in the community. The biggest thing that I've said, or tried to say to the board too, that this is not a one area process, but a multitude of things that has to come together to be able to move forward at the same time. You can't piecemeal it, but it has to be a collective of all things based on a timeline so that that structure will not fail. So that's the idea that I've promoted, and I think that's the way that the board has to look at it. Again, I thank the community members for coming tonight with their comments and with their questions and concerns, because we've all had certain parts of those comments, although I don't necessarily think that we're totally united in our concerns, but I think most people are realizing that it takes a concentrated effort on a multitude of things that has to be discussed and has to be put in place before you can make a move in a positive manner with, again, the best educational purposes that we can do for the kids within the community in Shiloh schools.
Hello, I'm Tony Kyle. I would also like to thank everybody for coming out. It's great to see that we have so many concerned citizens of the school district, as I assure you every member of the board is concerned as well. I think something that maybe is a little misdirected is we do have a committee, a strategic planning committee, that is starting this process to figure out what is the best direction for the whole school district, not just this building, but what's going to be the best direction down 2 years, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, so hopefully we're still a viable school district and the state does not come in and mandate what we have to do. We want to be able to make those choices, so we do have a committee. And just like Troy mentioned, we'd like to add to the committee. We want more community input from Women, Rockland, Youth Connective, Redmond, everybody, Murdoch. We want everybody to be involved, because we want to find the best direction for the entire district, both what's best for our kids' education and ultimately what's going to decide that. Unfortunately, because of what Dr. Lisa said and the state's poor management of its budget, our personal budget, or our school budget, which is based upon our EBA, our tax evaluation, we have to live within those means and do the best job we can to educate the kids. And that's, our current committee that's starting this process, that came up with these 2 public meetings, which I think is the first step, and that's what we're looking for, is input to see what direction everybody thinks about to take, see what questions are out there. No, we did not come in here with a plan of what we're trying to do. There was no preconceived direction that anybody wanted to go. We're looking for guidance, we're looking for the questions that need to be answered, so that way we can put together a plan over the next 2 months, 12 months, 2 years, whatever it takes to get us headed the right direction. And thank you again for everybody coming out.
I just echo everyone's thank you, and on behalf of the board, we really do appreciate your comments and your concerns. And as we move forward with this issue, I don't disagree with Tony that the Strategic Planning Committee has been doing some work, but a strategic plan is far bigger than one building. And if the building is a special issue, then the building deserves a special committee. And so that's probably how it should have started to begin with. If there was misdirection on my part, I apologize for that. I'm fixing it now. So that's how we're going to move forward. I will form and convene a special committee to study the special issue. And I'd like strategic planning to keep doing the work they're doing and continue to help with the special committee. We have one other. First of all, is there anything under other that needs discussed? Okay. We have one other item of business on the agenda, which is to set the board meeting dates and times for our future board meetings. June was our last scheduled board meeting, so there is a schedule in front of you, board members. It continues with the third Monday of every month at 7 p.m.
Except for January 22nd.
Yes, January 22nd is the exception, but I've had some questions from board members. I do have a couple who would like that moved back to the Monday to keep consistency. I welcome comments or questions on that. It was moved because that is a non-school day, but we still continue to have functions sometimes on non-school days, and the comments that have been brought to me have been, keep it consistent for the public, keep it on the same day, why move it, or, none of us really have the day off, so, it's no different for us to come on a Monday night or a Tuesday night.
You especially wanted to move it back, and I know Troy especially wanted to keep it on the Monday. Does anyone have objections to moving it back to Monday? Okay. Then we'll move that one before we take the vote to January 21st. A motion to approve the meeting dates.
I make a motion to approve the board meeting dates and times for the attached form, the attached corrected form. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yes. Danny? Yes. Sam?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
We're adjourned. Thank you all for attending.
Maybe we need to go to the regular meeting instead.